This is the Thomas and Friends Iceberg, and in today's video we've got something truly special for you, a journey into the fascinating world of Thomas and Friends like you've never seen before. Get ready to dive deep into the Thomas and Friends Iceberg, uncovering hidden secrets, forgotten characters, lore, cancelled episodes and more. I will be summing this information up for you guys as accurately as possible as well. Okay, so for those of you who may not know what an iceberg list is, it's basically just a summation of the knowledge most people will know in a particular fandom. For example, starting at the tip of the iceberg above the surface level, which is what your casual Thomas viewer would know, with the much larger submerged part of the iceberg covering content that's less known about by the general population in the community and becoming more obscure as the iceberg goes down. And just two more things I have to talk about before we start. I'd like to thank Kaiki for sponsoring today's video. Get 10% off from your order by using the code FISH, and the user Snowy on icebergcharts.com for creating this list. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into the video. The Railway Series. The Railway Series is a series of books about the railways of the island of Sodor. The books were created by the Reverend W. Awdry, who wrote the first stories in 1942. He wrote 26 books from 1945 to 1972. A further 16 books were written by his son, Christopher Awdry. The final book in the series, Thomas and His Friends, was published in 2011. The O-Face. The O-Face was a strange-looking Gauge 1 resin face cast made for the Perspex Thomas prop back in Season 1 and would never appear again after Season 2 minus a flashback sequence in Season 4. The reason for this is because most likely small children would have probably found it quite jarring when the camera would cut to a shot of Thomas displaying this expression. It has since become a meme in the Thomas community, and I even own a Gauge 1 resin copy of the original face. The Missing Coach. The Missing Coach was a scrapped episode of Thomas the Tank Engine based off the Railway series story of the same name that was intended to be the 16th episode of 1986's Season 2. According to the show's director David Mitton, most of the episode was filmed, however it would be dropped before completion as Britt Allcroft, the creator of the show, decided to have it cancelled as she thought the plot would be too difficult for children to understand. Most likely due to the twins switching tenders and, well, the episode lacked action. So does Better Late Than Never, but that's a whole nother can of worms. David Mitton also mentioned that he was in possession of all the film negatives for the episode as well. Season categorizations. The term season categorizations refers to how the seasons are classified in groups by the fandom. For example, the classic era being Season 1 through to Season 7, the hit era being Season 8 through to Season 12, the Miller era being Season 13 through to 16, the Brenner era being Season 17 through to Season 21, and the Boaba era being Seasons 22, 23, and 24. Not counting the currently released 2 seasons of All Engines Go, which some have referred to as Seasons 25 and 26. However, it is technically its own show and are Seasons 1 and 2 of their own show, respectively. Songs. Yeah, this one is self-explanatory. Shining Time Station. Shining Time Station was a children's television series jointly created by British television producer Britt Allcroft and American television producer Rick Sicklegow. The series was produced by Quality Family Entertainment, the American branch of the Britt Allcroft Company in association with Catalyst Entertainment in Seasons 2 and 3 for New York City's PBS station WNET, and was originally taped in New York City during its first season and in Toronto during the rest of its run. It incorporated sequences from the British television show, as we all know, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, which was in turn based on the books of the Railway series written by the Reverend W. Awdry. The series aired on PBS from January 29th, 1989 until June 11th, 1993 with 4-hour-long family specials premiering in primetime throughout 1995. Down the Mine Pilot. Down the Mine is the original 1983 Gauge 1 test pilot of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends before the first episode aired in the UK in 1984. It was filmed but never broadcasted on television nor released on home video. The only engines built for the pilot were Thomas and Gordon, being much simpler in appearance and were extremely poor runners. Along with this, O-Gauge models were built, the only confirmed one being Thomas, as it was later turned into scrap dressing, which is believed to have been used for an O-Gauge test pilot or test footage shortly before converting to filming with Gauge 1 models. I actually have 2 videos on both Gauge 1 and the O-Gauge test pilots, so links in the description for both of those videos if you're interested in watching them. Shut up! No, I'm not telling you guys to shut up. No, okay. That was a terrible joke. This is referring to the word shut up being used in episodes which occurred 3 times in the show's history. The last time occurring in 1986's season 2 episode, Edward's Exploit.
Shut up!
This is most likely because it was deemed too rude, and with a plentiful amount of small children watching, it's fair to say why they stopped using that phrase and started using be quiet instead. Season 7 was screwed over in the US, so this entry on the iceberg list is basically referring to the absolute train wreck, no pun intended, of Season 7's release in the United States. Which, by the time it was released, Season 8 was already on PBS in America and ITV in the UK. The only place US fans could watch Season 7 episodes was sandwiched in between extremely watered down episodes of Season 8. Also, not every episode was even shown on TV in the US as well. There were episodes fans never knew existed, like Snow Engine and Duncan and the Runaway Elephant, but they never saw them. The whole US version of the season wasn't seen in its entirety until the complete classic series DVD set was released in 2006, 3 years after it aired in the UK. There are other problems with this season's release in the US, but we'd be here till Christmas if I were to go fully into depth. Engine roll call. Again, another self-explanatory entry, played at the end of episodes starting in Season 8 and onwards. Yep. Peter Sam's special funnel. Basically, after Peter Sam's accident at the slate quarry, his funnel is damaged, and in the strong and cold winter wind that sweeps over the island shortly thereafter, causes it to wobble. Peter Sam is supposed to receive a new funnel, however, before he can, his old funnel is knocked off by a large hanging icicle in the tunnel, and he's forced to use a drain pipe for a funnel until his new special square-shaped funnel arrives. Stuart and Falcon. Stuart and Falcon were Sir Handel's and Peter Sam's previous names when they worked on the railway with Duke. Thomas and Friends in meme culture. Basically, a pretty self-explanatory entry. Some moments of Thomas are amusing and are used in YTPs.
Back and front and back. What happened then? No one knows.
Or memes with text, and are pretty funny. Most of the time. Difference in dubs. This entry on the list is likely referring to the UK and US dubs of the show respectively, which were different as words like trucks in the UK dub were changed for the US dub to cars. Along with this, the word fat was never used in the US dub.
You're too fat, you need exercise.
Which is why the Fat Controller would only be referred to in the US dub by his proper name, Sir Topham Hatt.
Then along came Sir Topham Hatt.
Sad story of Henry clickbait. This entry on the iceberg list is referring to the episode The Sad Story of Henry being taken out of context by media corporations to portray the show as dark and disturbing. Some even going as far as to call the Fat Controller authoritarian and claiming that Henry was never let out of the tunnel ever again, which we all know simply isn't true.
Despicable, finished Henry.
Drayton Manor's mistreatment of models. Now, I wouldn't say the models have been mistreated per se, more like neglected. Of course, over recent years, there have been attempts at fixing issues with the models, and I believe that Drayton Manor is on the right path to be looking after the models they have in their possession and making sure they are, well, better maintained than they were in the past. Fonts. This is just referring to the fonts used in the show for the intro and outro credits being Bevan, Rockwell, and Flange BQ Bold. Barkman. Barkman Industries is a Bermuda-registered Chinese-owned company globally headquartered in Hong Kong, specialising in model railroading. Some of the model trains they make are Thomas the Tank Engine-related characters and are quite impressive looking and well liked by the Thomas community. All engines go. The reboot for Thomas and Friends Season 25 that drastically changed their art style and likely the audience of the show. Well, I wouldn't call it Season 25, I'd call it Season 1, and well, they've got a second season out, and I believe a third one coming soon, since it's technically a different show now. Stepney is real. Stepney is based on a real engine by the same name. Thomas and Friends video games. A few examples of these are Building a New Line, Radway Adventures, Go Go Thomas, and more. 3-strike formula. Something present in the new and Miller eras of the show. A character is given directions to which they don't follow, they mess up 3 times, and on the 3rd time they finally learn their lesson. Trains fan-made content. Trains, or Train Simulator, is a software used to simulate railroads and is often used to create fan-made episodes of Thomas and Friends.
Oh, Jesus!
US title alterations. Changes may be as simple as changing Thomas the Jet Engine to Thomas and the Jet Engine, or as drastic as the sad story of Henry becoming Come Out Henry. OCs, O and C standing for original characters. Typically, they are a locomotive using a certain colour and an already existing character's face mask. Gordon Goes Foreign, cancelled Season 2 episode. A planned Season 2 adaptation of a story by the same name, it was cancelled due to the budget not being able to afford the model for the foreign engine. Although there were plans on altering Henry's already existing model by giving him a new face mask and smoke deflectors to act as the foreign engine. Thomas and the UK Trip, a Japanese crossover between a Japanese children's cartoon and Thomas and Friends. The special has 2 parts, one where the characters meet the Fat Controller and his engines, and one where the characters learn about real-life trains. And since the special was being filmed during the production of Season 3, there's plenty of footage that was never shown in Season 3 and is purely exclusive to the special. James's continuity error in Season 1. James's accident occurred on his first day, yet every episode prior to Thomas Saves the Day, or Thomas and the Breakdown Train, has his model appear in the episodes in some way. Characters' catchphrases. Again, a pretty self-explanatory listing. Peter, Sam, Duncan and Sir Handel were red. In the Radway series, Peter, Sam, Sir Handel and Duncan, were red. This makes stories like Trucks, Rusty Helps Peter Sam more logical due to them looking similar. That's why the episodes have certain parts that just feel a little off. Tugs, a sister show to Thomas and Friends directed by David Mitton. Accidents based on real life accidents. Just self-explanatory. Diesel 10 with a Russian accent. Originally, Diesel 10 had a Russian accent, voiced by Neil Crone, but test audiences felt it would be too scary for child viewers. Bust my buffers, a catchphrase used by engines in response to something surprising.
Bust my buffers!
Cinders and Ashes, basically another similar saying, similar to Bust My Buffers. Jack and the Sodor Construction Company, a spin-off of Thomas and Friends that was shelved for a significant amount of time and had half of its episodes cut and cancelled. It was eventually released on DVD but had alterations to focus more on Thomas and Percy. The Mainland, again a pretty self-explanatory listing. Junior Campbell and Mike O'Donnell. Junior Campbell and Mike O'Donnell were the composers of all the songs, themes and ditties used from seasons 1 through to 7 of Thomas and Friends. They also did the same for Thomas's sister show Tugs for its first and only series. Britt Allcroft. Britt Allcroft is the creator of the show Thomas and Friends. George Carlin. George Carlin was an American comedian who originally dubbed the 3rd and 4th seasons of the show in the US before later dubbing the 1st and 2nd seasons when Ringo Starr was out of the picture. He also, funnily enough, dubbed the 3rd season for the New Zealand VHS releases. Michael Brandon. Michael Brandon is an American actor who narrated the 7th through to the 16th series of Thomas and Friends. He also narrated some of the Thomas DVD menus of Hooray for Thomas and Other Adventures, Thomas's Sodor Celebration, Tales from the Tracks, and Come Ride the Rails in 2006. And re-narrated 6 episodes from the 6th series and all the episodes from the 7th series, as Michael Angelis replaced Alec Baldwin briefly. Michael Angelis. Michael Angelis was a British actor who was best known for his 21-year stint as a Thomas and Friends narrator, being the longest holder of the role in the English dub. He narrated the 3rd through to the 16th series of the UK dub. He also recorded 6 American episodes on the New Friends for Thomas and Other Adventures DVD and the first 6 Railway Stories CDs, as well as other miscellaneous merchandise and promos. Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin is an Academy Award-nominated American actor, writer, comedian, and producer who narrated the American version from the 5th to the 6th series of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. He also played Mr. Conductor in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Disgraceful, disgusting, despicable. A phrase used in the classic era by Gordon, James, and Henry respectively. Season 3's improved set quality. So basically, after David Mitton worked on Tugs, he used his experience to make the sets of Thomas and Friends look much more realistic and high quality. Lego in Thomas's Christmas Party. At the end of Thomas's Christmas Party, Sir Topham Hatt can be seen standing on what appears to be Lego. Britt Allcroft sued David Mitton over Tugs. Apparently, according to this list, Britt Allcroft did not like that David Mitton was making a show with talking vehicles and sued David Mitton due to her having ownership of the faces with the moving eyes concept. Turns out, she had the copyright for only grey faces, and the faces in Tugs, well, were tan. Not all episodes were aired outside of the US and UK. In many dubs of the show, some episodes and even entire seasons were never dubbed, such as Season 6 in the America Latina dub of the show, in which only 4 episodes were dubbed in Spanish. Season 4 and 5's whistle era. During the 4th and 5th season, they pretty much didn't care anymore, and it was very common for engines to have the completely wrong whistle sound. Toad Stands By. Pretty self-explanatory, but this episode is well known for the scene in which Oliver pulls Essie Ruffy apart. Boko and Daisy's face. Basically, Daisy uses the same face mask as Boko, but with makeup applied. Season 2 new faces. Almost every character was given a new alternate smiling face in Season 2. Best Friends takes place in Season 2. The Season 12 episode Best Friends, while not the best episode, is much more tolerable when it is placed after the events of Thomas, Percy and Nicole from Season 2. Wonky eyes. This term essentially refers to any time that a character's eyes appear asymmetrical or crooked. While this has happened all throughout the model era, this was most common in the early seasons, especially Seasons 1 and 2. Season 5 rushes. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen them, but I'll put a couple of links in the description and put some on screen right now. To Handle's absence in Seasons 5 to 9. So this basically just happened because, well, the crew didn't have it in their budget to make a large-scale model of Sir Handle. Green Thomas. Thomas originally sported a green livery before being painted to an NWR blue. Thomas and the Magic Railroad Director's Cut, a lost version of Thomas and the Magic Railroad that contains deleted content. A work print was leaked, however, there was never an official Director's Cut at all. But before we continue with the video, I have to talk about today's sponsor, Kaiki. KaikiStore.com is the ultimate online store for Thomas and Friends fans, and they've got a treasure trove of Thomas and Friends toys and products that are perfect for any collector. Not only are the products cheap and affordable, but the shipping is extremely fast and reasonably priced too. Would you rather pay $27.50 for this Butch model on eBay, or just $2 for the exact same thing, if not in better condition, from the Kaiki store, which I'll even leave a link to in the description down below? You can even get them for cheaper still by using the code FISH when you check out, which will take 10% from your order. They're cheap, reliable, and one of the best third-party resellers on the market, and they've always got new products coming out each and every day. So next time you're thinking about making an impulse buy of your favorite character, rather than choosing something like eBay to make your purchase where you'll get ripped blind, you can make a nice and cheap purchase that is fair for all involved parties. Well, that's it for today's video, as we're approaching the 18-minute mark, but don't fret, as there are still several more layers of the iceberg that we'll be covering in another 2 or possibly 3 videos that will be uploaded over the following month. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again soon in part 2.